We have breaking news that a state of emergency has been declared in the city of Toronto. Rivers in the GTA are rising at a dangerous pace, causing problems across the city. We're keeping a close eye on the situation as heavy rain continues to fall. In the last hour, the south section of the DVP, both north and southbound, has been closed due to the overflowing Don River. Early reports indicate a total washout of the roadway. Toronto police have blocked the DVP northbound, and traffic is being rerouted to continue eastbound on the Gardiner across the lakeshore. Southbound traffic is being rerouted at the Bayview exit, keeping motorists safe on higher ground. With the water still rising, authorities warn more of the DVP could be washed out as the day goes on. All GO train service, running north and southbound from Union Station to Gormley Station in Richmond Hill, has been cancelled until the water begins to recede. Service disruptions are expected for at least 24 to 36 hours. Residents in Toronto's waterfront communities were evacuated early this morning. Those who do not have family or friends nearby are being housed at the Moss Park Armory until further notice. The Toronto Island is also under a state of emergency, and some of its residents have also been evacuated as it is no longer safe for them to stay at home. In both areas, more are on standby to be evacuated as the rain continues to fall. We are now joined in studio by Suzanne Bernier, Emergency Management and Public Information Officer with the City of Toronto's Office of Emergency Management.
Thank you, Josh. First, I'd like to confirm that the City of Toronto has now declared a state of emergency as a result of today's historic flooding. Our #1 message to residents in affected areas right now is to be safe and aware and listen to emergency officials and first responders. If you're not in any of the affected areas, please stay away, as any congestion or disruption could affect or impede rescue and recovery operations. Right now, we're seeing major flooding in and around the waterfront and Riverdale South areas, and many GTA communities close to rivers are continuing to battle rising waters. All residents should be aware that this could be Toronto's biggest flood since 2013. In Cabbagetown, a gas pipeline ruptured near Parliament and Eastern Road, and people have been told to stay inside and prepare for evacuation orders. The majority of Toronto Island's residents have already been evacuated, with others on standby as the rain continues to fall. The Don and Humber are raging rivers rushing through the city. Here are some of the additional challenges we've been facing around the city. Several cars on the Don Valley Parkway have been swept away and are currently floating downstream. In the Scarborough Bluffs, authorities are trying to locate 2 people whose camper was swept into Lake Ontario. Several additional areas have been evacuated, and residents are seeking shelter at the East York Civic Centre and Moss Park Armory. Near the Humber Valley Bridge, emergency responders are searching for 2 men who are believed to be missing. The rescue mission began at 10:30 this morning after reports of a capsized trailer near the river. An air search is ongoing and will continue as long as there is daylight and it is safe to do so. A local state of emergency has been declared for parts of East York, with houses and businesses situated close to the Don River. The river is rising quickly and more rain is coming. Emergency services are putting up sandbags in high-risk areas to protect property and infrastructure. We're asking people to please stay away from any river or creek due to the rapidly rising waters and unstable banks. Current water levels are up 3 to 4 meters in some areas. If your community has a temporary storm pond, they may become extremely dangerous as street water flows and fills them rapidly. We will continue to monitor this carefully and have alerted residents along the Don River that they may be required to evacuate. Right now, the majority of our focus is on the waterfront community and Toronto Island. Residents who've experienced previous flooding should be preparing their homes and preparing for potential evacuations as soon as this afternoon. As I mentioned earlier, the flood activity we are seeing could be as bad or worse than what we experienced in 2013. In the Distillery District, a gas pipeline rupture from earlier today forced residents indoors. That leak has now been contained, and we are continuing to monitor air quality in and around the affected area. At this time, a mandatory evacuation order is in place for 2 neighborhoods, but all residents of the Distillery District should be prepared to leave. The eastern section of Queens Quay is washed out, and crews are rescuing people with bucket and backhoe equipment. Backhoes are also working to trench the main street in an attempt to divert water. We can confirm that in the downtown core, buildings closest to Lake Ontario have experienced severe flooding, but all businesses were evacuated without incident. Police are clearing the area and continuing to check to ensure the safety of all residents. Residents are gathering in the Moss Park Armory, and fire officials do not expect the Don River to crest until 4 p.m. This is a very challenging emergency, and we are urging residents not to attempt to return to an evacuated area, as they are extremely dangerous. We have de-energized the power grid to protect infrastructure, so the power will be off until the floodwaters recede and it can be safely restored. In total, there are currently 3 communities affected by this extreme weather and flooding. The mandatory evacuation list now includes Toronto Island, the waterfront community, and residential areas bordering the Don River. And within the past 5 minutes, we have added communities bordering on the Humber River. Evacuation centers have been set up at the Moss Park Armory for people who do not have nearby family or friends, the University of Toronto, and the East York Civic Centre. For those trying to reach friends and family, we ask that you not call the evacuation centers, but wait until those friends and family can reach you instead. We have set up computers and telephone access at the evacuation centers for residents' use. We will continue to update all residents through the Weather Network, the Toronto Police Service website, as well as the City of Toronto's website and Twitter account at TorontoOEM, and through these broadcasts. We will continue to work closely with other local and provincial government authorities to monitor these operations. And we thank all of our first responders for their outstanding work during this very difficult emergency. Thank you, and be safe.
Welcome.